Welcome to Unfiltered. Another week and lots of stuff's going on. Not really, I guess. I don't know. Last week, we'll start right off at the top. Last week, a lot of dreams were shattered, some of my own. 3 people split the biggest Powerball jackpot ever. It was $1.5 billion with a B. $1.5 billion split by 3 people. I can't remember where. California was one of them. Tennessee, I think, was another one, and I'm not sure where the third one was. Probably 3 of the most miserable people in the world right now. Just saying, money doesn't make you happy. Not even that much. Matter of fact, they probably got twice as many problems now as they had before they were like 100 millionaires. Apparently, each one they'll get about $300 million, I guess. If they decide to take the cash, it's about $300 million a piece. And you know, I've got to tell you, I bought a few tickets for that last drawing, and one of the things my mother said to me, she said, which I thought was funny, she says, if you win, you better save some of that money. For what? The problem with the American economy right now is everybody saves their money, especially the rich people, or it gets invested. And the truth is, it never actually goes back into the economy where it does good. No, if I won $300 million, if I was one of 3 that, split that jackpot, I would spend my days spending money in stores all over the country, in Burger Kings, and in Taco Bells, and in Targets, and in local stores, and just spend it in retail outlets. That's where your money does the most good for the economy. Now, I'm not saying that investing in the oil is bad, but hey, you people that invested in oil over the past year are sucking the bottom right now, aren't you? Money's just, it's like it's going down the toilet. Oil prices are dropping astronomically. And some people have said that we may see gas at $1 a gallon again. And wouldn't that be nice? Sure it would to all us poor people. Gas at $1 a gallon means freedom. That's what gas means to me. Gas is freedom, because I jump in my car and I travel. That's my freedom. That's my pursuit of happiness, is traveling. And I don't need to travel to any other countries, because we've got a whole country right here. There's no sense in, oh geez, I want to see Italy. Well, have you seen the Grand Canyon? Oh no, but I want to see Italy. See your own country before you go traipsing around the world seeing other people's countries. That's our problem with everything here in this country, is we're so focused on every other place in the world except our own country. And it doesn't make sense. I don't care what they do halfway around the world. It does affect me when they do stuff in the United States. It affects me more when they do stuff in New England. It affects me more when they do stuff in New Hampshire. It affects me even more when they do stuff in Keene, New Hampshire. And it affects me even more when the trailer park I live in makes a change. That affects me the most. And that's not a government entity. That's some poor schlub who lives in Canada, who owns the trailer park, decides he's going to jack up the rates a little bit more because the currency exchange is not to where he'd like it, so he just raises his price and then takes all that money back up into Canada and changes it into Canadian money, and we never see any of it here in the United States. That's just one of the things. Now, I had dreams for my big money. It was like, how cool would it be just to walk around the streets? You have that so much money. I mean, you can't even fathom what $300 million is. And that's not even saying that you won the major jackpot by yourself, which would have netted you about $800, $900 million if you had taken the cash and you had won that all by yourself. You can't fathom that amount of money. But wouldn't it be so cool if you could just walk around the streets, spend 8 hours walking around a street in a city and just randomly passing out $100 bills to unsuspecting strangers? How many friends would you have? Now, not how many friends would you have, but suddenly a lot of people would claim to be your friend. Guaranteed. I would say, yep, you know something? I'm going to keep just the amount of friends I had before I won all that money. And everybody else, screw off. All right, last week I talked a little bit about gun rules, gun laws. When I was 15 years old, 15 and a half maybe it was 16. But right in that general area, between 15 and 16, I went to my local Keene. It was the Keene Recreation Department, because I live in Keene, New Hampshire. I went to the Keene Recreation Department and took a hunter safety course. It was called a hunter safety course because, basically we were taught that that's what guns were for. Guns were for hunting. Back then in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and even in the mid 70s, people didn't own guns for protection. People owned guns because they were hunters. They were outdoorsmen. Maybe they were hikers, and yes, they wanted to protect themselves from bears or wildlife and things like that. Or, being New Englanders, a lot of people hunted. Because if you can kill a 200-pound deer in November, then that's, that nets out to be like almost 100 pounds of meat that you don't have to buy in the supermarket. I mean, it's common sense. If you can kill something to eat and save yourself money and not eat the processed stuff that come out of a plant somewhere, yeah. And back in those days, you killed your deer, you cleaned your deer. And if you didn't know, most people that I knew that were hunters could cut up their own deer into steaks and grind their own hamburger and all that. Or else you take it to a friend that's a butcher or the neighborhood butcher, and they would, some neighborhood shops would do that. The point is, I was taught at, a fairly young age of 15, 16, before I was legally a man, I guess, that with guns, it's all about safety. And there are only 4 main rules for gun safety. It's 4 rules. And they're easy rules. I'll read them to you. I've got them right here on the computer screen. Number 1, universal safety rule number 1 for guns. Treat all guns as though they are always loaded, and always perform a clearance check every time you pick one up. Clearance check is when you slide the bolt back for what they call an automatic pistol, technically semi-automatic pistol. Pull the slide back. It ejects the cartridge out of the chamber. Make sure that there's no clip in it. Accidents happen, and it's stupid because I can't remember when. It was a while ago, and it may have even been during the first season of Unfiltered back in the mid 2000s. Two of Dublin, New Hampshire police officers were practicing disarming techniques in their station with an unloaded gun when it went off and shot one of the officers in the hand. Yeah, it can even happen to police officers. Always treat the guns like they're loaded, unless you are, and make absolutely sure that they're unloaded. When you're cleaning them, when you're practicing with them, which you shouldn't be practicing with them, why those two officers weren't using, a cap pistol for disarming techniques, I don't know. But yeah, guns are not toys. Guns are guns, they're tools, they're weapons. You don't run a chainsaw blade across your tongue to see if it's sharp. That's just stupid. So, all right. Rule number 2, universal. This is universal safety rules for guns. Rule number 2, never point your gun at anything you are not willing to destroy. That's right. In case you don't know, guns put big holes in things. And it doesn't matter what it is. The simple physics of, a piece of lead coming out of that barrel behind a gunpowder charge, it speeds up that piece of lead. The lead actually shoots. That's why they call it shooting. The lead shoots out of that barrel really fast and will put a hole in anything that's in front of it. They don't just bounce off. So don't point your gun at anything unless you're ready to destroy it. Moves on to rule number 3. Always keep your finger off the trigger and outside the trigger guard until the barrel is on target and you have made the decision to shoot. So keep your finger off the trigger until you're lined up with what you're going to shoot. You know you're going to shoot it. Put your finger in and pull the trigger. That's it. Brings us on to rule number 4. Always be sure of your target and beyond. So you don't just have to worry about your target, you have to worry about what's behind your target. Because sometimes the first thing that a bullet puts a hole in doesn't stop the bullet. The bullet may put a hole in 2 or 3 or 4 other things also. So if you're shooting, let's say, because I'm using hunting as because that's the way I learned was hunting. You don't shoot at a deer with a guy standing behind the deer. I know, it seems like it should be common sense, right? But so many people don't pay attention to these rules and don't know these rules. Especially the first one. And these may be out of order. Because the way that maybe I would have read them was treat all your guns like they're unloaded, like they're always loaded. And then, no, I guess they are. Never point your gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. And if you're going to point your gun at something, you better be ready to kill it. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're actually ready to pull it. And number 4, always be sure of your target and what's behind it and around it. So easy, so simple. Guns shouldn't be used for anger. Anyway. That's just a couple little things that I saw And what was the story I saw when it comes to, always be sure of your target and beyond? I saw a thing the other day, and I can't remember where it was from or where I saw it, because I just saw it in passing, about a father who shot his own son. It was a mistake. I mean, he thought the kid was a burglar, so he shot him. That part, the shooting him part, wasn't a mistake. The part about it being his own kid was the mistake, because he didn't take the time to stop and identify what he was shooting at. I believe there's a phrase that came out of Vietnam called pray and spray, where these soldiers, because of the way that the Viet Cong fighted, I'm just going to make up words here. Because of the way that the Viet Cong fought, most of the time, American soldiers didn't see what they were shooting at. They just started filling the bushes full of lead. That's not the right way to do it. Again, go back to the Revolutionary War. I think it was the Revolutionary War. Again, educated in Keene, so, maybe my history is not the best. But the guy that said, do not fire until you see the whites of their eyes. Because by the time you see the whites of the eyes of the person you're going to shoot, you're going to know what you're shooting. Exactly. There you go. And this whole crap about how horrible we think people that fight, use terrorist and guerrilla tactics in a war, and we admonish them for that, and bad, they can't, how dare they fight like that? I'd just like to remind everybody that during the Revolutionary War, that's what we did. We didn't wear uniforms. We hid in the trees and in the rocks. We popped up and we shot and then we disappeared. Because that's the way to win a war. You can't win a war if you dress everybody in uniform, march them in a line down the road. The British found that out real quick. All right, let me get off Facebook. I missed a couple of great football games, I guess, last week. The Pittsburgh game where there was huge fights and everything. And I heard that in the stands, people were peeing on each other. Stupid. And a great story, I taped this on Thursdays, this show on Thursdays. And this morning there was a cute story on the news about the Vikings kicker that missed that 27-yard field goal. Boy, he shanked it hard. 27-yard field goal and missed it to lose the game. A group of fifth graders apparently sent him a whole bunch of messages saying that they still loved him and keep trying, and he was still great. And the one that got me this morning, I want to say it said keep trying, puppies are cute. Now if you got that kind of little message written by a first grader, you put that right next to your desk, and that would be your inspirational thought for weeks and weeks to come. Keep trying, puppies are cute. Yeah, and they are cute. So he got all kinds, and apparently he's all right. I saw this headline, and I've got to stop here and open this story up, because headline says, Pittsburgh carjackers run away from stick shift vehicle. I read somewhere that, the auto industry is quickly coming to the end of the manual transmission, because it's getting to the point where nobody knows how to drive them anymore. And apparently, for most people, it's too much work to drive them. Our local disc jockey on the morning show here in town, he was talking about he's test driving the new Subaru, And he was talking about how great it is. It's got lane avoidance stuff, and it's got the thing you set it for how far you want to be behind somebody, and the car will stop automatically, and if you drift out of the lane, it'll automatically put you back in the lane. And he's naming off all these things. He's going, so just in case you're not paying attention while you're driving, that's the point. Pay attention when you're driving. You don't need a car that allows you to not pay attention when you're driving. We need to crack down and make people pay attention when they're driving. If you're not going to pay attention behind the wheel, don't get behind the wheel. That's my big rant for today right there. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. But that's the fact. If you're not going to pay attention behind the wheel, when you're driving, you shouldn't be thinking about the speech that you're going to make in 2 hours. You shouldn't think about the job, the chewing out that you just got from your boss. You shouldn't think about anything except driving your vehicle. Every time I leave the house, my mother says, drive careful. And I always do. And she knows I always do. I've got well over millions of miles under my belt behind the wheel of many different kinds of vehicles, including 18-wheelers. I've driven through Wyoming in the snow, blizzard-like snow conditions, and actually had to leave the interstate because the interstate closed. Guess what? Pull into a truck stop. You're going to be here until you're not here anymore. Part of driving. You pay attention. Driving is a privilege. So should, owning guns should be the same type of privilege. You should have to take a test, and you should have to, be able to show how a gun breaks down and how to check if it's loaded or not before you get one. And again, like I said, an eye test is imperative. So okay, back to the story. Let me remind everybody, this is a stream of consciousness show, so I had no plan when I came in here. I just talk, and you folks listen, or you don't listen, I don't care. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, police searching for 2 would-be carjackers who apparently can't drive a stick shift. Tuesday night, one of them tapped on a 28-year-old driver's side window with a gun. The 2 ordered the man out of his car and demanded money. When the victim said he didn't have any money, they demanded his cell phone and car keys. Police spokeswoman said that when the victim told the suspect the car had a manual transmission, they decided they didn't want it and ran away. It's like, sure, I'll give you my keys, but it's a stick. And they're like, never mind. So there you go. You don't want to get carjacked? Drive a manual transmission. That's funny. I like that. I like that a lot. See what else we got for odd news. I got just a few more minutes here left to go today. First graders. This one sounds kind of good because, let me do this one instead. Because I heard a guy on the radio this morning talking about, he had called and said he had won $12 on the Powerball ticket. And it's like, well, that's pretty good. And then the guy says, well, I bought 50 tickets at $2 a piece. Apparently that's good according to the Common Core math. The whole new math we got going. Spend 100, win 12. Good deal. Not so much. You're still $88 down. Apparently this Texas man, he wasn't very lucky either. Ventured out to buy a lottery ticket this past week, and a 67-year-old Fort Worth man was walking to a store in his neighborhood with dreams of that $1.5 billion in his mind. when he fell through a deep hole at a construction site. That's right, landing in water at the bottom. The man's concerned family reported him missing after darkness fell, and during a search of the area, officers noticed a construction hole and found the man at the bottom of the 7-foot opening. Officers were able to climb into the hole and give the man aid before pulling him to the surface. His identity was not released. Jeez, I wonder why. I'd be going, don't put me on the news, man. I don't want to be in the news for that. Because of the quick thing. Come on. Because of the quick thinking and dedication the officers exhibited, this man and his family can say they truly won the biggest lottery of all. That's just cheesy. Come on. You got to admit. Yes. We didn't win the $1.5 billion, but we got Granddad out of the hole. And then there was the... Okay. One from the don't try this at home list. From Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. Idiots. Police say two 13-year-old boys in Pennsylvania facing disorderly conduct charges after one agreed to be set on fire so the other could film it and post it online. Do I need to say any more? I didn't think so. All right. Well, I've got the Unfiltered Facebook page is going strong. I'm trying to keep posting on it every couple of days. I'm probably going to put a poll question on maybe for next week's show that I'll talk about next week. But I've had some good comments. I think people are liking it. I've had a bunch new people join in. For all you YouTube watchers, subscribe. Right down there maybe. Down there. Somewhere. There's a button somewhere down there that says subscribe. Subscribe. Maybe it's up there. I don't know. But subscribe to the YouTube page. Go to the Facebook page. Check it out. And watch for the poll question. I've got some crazy facts for you. I know you folks used to like the crazy facts. And I've only got about a minute, so we'll do a few of them. The reason the taste of artificial banana flavoring and artificial banana flavored products doesn't taste like bananas, it's because it's based on a type of banana that was wiped out by a plague in the 1950s. There you go. I found this one and I was kind of surprised. The Nazis were the first ever people in modern history to start an anti-smoking and tobacco movement. So if you want to be like the Nazis, go ahead, quit smoking. I'm going to keep smoking because I'm not going to follow any of their rules. Find another one. Viagra, when dissolved in water, can make cut flowers stay erect for up to a week longer than they usually would. So it's not just for penises anymore. It's also for flowers. Who discovered that? There is an uninhabited island in the Bahamas known as Pig Beach, which is populated entirely by swimming pigs. And it sounds like my time is about up. Till next week. Peace.